welcome to the Picture Show. Today we're going to be taking a look at what it means to dive into the world of video games with Ready Player One. Let's check out the trailer.
My name's Wade Watts. My dad picked that name because it sounded like a superhero's alter ego, like Peter Parker or Bruce Banner. But he died when I was a kid, my mom too. And I ended up here. Sitting here in my tiny corner of nowhere. There's nowhere left to go. Nowhere. Except the Oasis. A whole virtual universe. People come to the Oasis for all the things they can do. But they stay because of all the things they can be.
Can you feel this?
Yeah. It's the only place that feels like I mean anything. The Oasis was the brainchild of James Halliday.
Hello. If you're watching this, I'm dead. I created a hidden object, an Easter egg. The first person to find the egg will inherit $500 billion and total control of the Oasis itself.
Who is this Parzival, and how the hell is he winning?
Find him.
This isn't just a game. I'm talking about actual life and death stuff.
The Oasis, the world's most important economic resource. And it's nothing less than a war for control of the future.
Welcome to the rebellion, Wade.
Like many of you, I only came here to escape. But I found something much bigger than just myself. Are you willing to fight?
Help us save the Oasis.
Welcome back, and that was our look at Ready Player One. As always, I'm your host, Alex Richardson, for the Picture Show. And today, we're talking about Ready Player One. Directed by Steven Spielberg, it has made $190 million worldwide already, with only about a week out. Today, I'm joined again by my lovely guest, Sarah Patterson. Sarah, you've become quite a regular on this show.
Thanks. I try to just be active in my movie watching.
I can understand that, so have I. So, like I said, we're talking about Ready Player One, a pretty fun video game movie. Like I said, it's clocked in at a 2 hours and 20-minute runtime. So there's a lot to take in with this.
There was so much. It was such a long movie, and I was just really impressed because most of the movie is in a video game. All those special effects were killer.
Yeah, I would argue, because about a week or so, 2 weeks ago, I reviewed Tomb Raider on the show, and talking about how that movie was somewhat of a good video game movie, but that was kept more live action, so it was like a video game adaptation. This would be considered like a video game movie because the whole thing is based off the video game called Oasis, which stands for, and this is a mouthful, Ontologically Anthropocentric Sensory Immersive Simulation, or Oasis for short. And I'm going to let you describe what the Oasis kind of is.
So the Oasis in the movie is like imagine VR pumped up on steroids times 10. It is the whole world of the internet inside of a place where you can be any avatar you want. You can look like whatever you want, like other icons, so many pop culture references from people's avatars.
Yeah, there's upwards of 140 Easter eggs just like in this movie of just like references, pop culture, 80s nostalgia, even stuff from nowadays.
I was really impressed with how modern it was, and it really, because of how modern and pop culture that was included in it, I didn't even realize it was a book before it was a movie. So that was really cool to find out.
This was let's see here. Ernest Cline wrote this book. Actually, only in like 2014 too.
Okay, that's
So-
really cool. They're starting to adapt books that are a lot newer nowadays.
Yeah, it was. I got that book in a loot crate, and I remember having it. I just never read it. I was just like, all right, cool, new book, put it on my bookshelf. After this movie, I was like, I kind of want to read this book now because
Have you?
there are some differences in the movie from what I've heard, but from what I saw, it was enjoyable. But going back to specifically the Oasis is an augmented reality, basically, way above the level that we have. Because this is like the movie's like what, set in 2045,
Yeah.
and so like it's no longer just like goggles and then like with some remotes. Like these people are in harnesses and suits with gloves and this whole full body experience.
And the coolest thing about that is when you're watching the movie, not just the rich people have this. Like, no matter how poor you are, no matter who you are, everyone has one of these virtual reality systems. Everyone in the world lives a second life through the Oasis. It's that intensive. It's like their culture in this movie. It was really cool.
Cool, but also to an extent somewhat sad. Because
Yeah.
we've seen some things like these, like you said, it's like a culture. Like this is a second life to them, and they even explain like within like the first 10 minutes of the film that like if you like some of these people, if they lose their characters in the game, if their characters die and they lose everything, they're ready to like kill themselves.
Because that's how people make their money in this world. Whenever like people have real jobs, but a lot of people, like I would say, like the poorer people, they make their money through the Oasis. They go in and they enter challenges and they sell items and stuff, and that gets transformed into real money.
Yeah.
So
And like so once again, this is like in 2045, and so like, but I wouldn't consider this movie like in a post-apocalyptic world. From what we see, like it's just
it's
time and it's like what this world might actually look like. Because our main character lives in this place called the Stacks. It's just a bunch of mobile homes stacked up on top of each other. They talk about like a corn syrup shortage of 2023, basically.
It's really about overpopulation. Is if what you see is because people are stacked on top of each other, and the shortages would be from lack of land. There being so many people that they're having to stack them on top of each other not to encroach on the farmland. So that's what's kind of scary, because it's kind of futuristic in that sense too.
Yeah. Well, diving into the actual meat of the story, our main character is played by Ty Sheridan, who plays Wade Watts. And he is the hero of the story. It even goes on to say that he was named Wade Watts because his dad thought it was like a comic book character like Bruce Banner or Peter Parker.
That was a cute little
Yeah,
take in there.
I was like, nerd references, which you'll do a lot in this movie. And he plays the character Parzival, and so like it's his story.
Right.
But what did you feel about him as a lead?
Well, personally, I felt like everyone else was a lot stronger than he was. But I don't think he necessarily did a bad job. I just think everyone else was so much more striking, and he was just very... so his character was like kind of like an awkward, shy, kind of, I would say maybe a submissive dude. But that's also how he, like, his acting was, too. And I was like, I want more out of you.
And like he was like the heart character.
Yeah, I
like,
guess.
He's that character that you want to like. You're like I'm behind you on this kind of deal, and which every character needs, every hero needs. But like I think for this kind of movie, because we like both saw it and we kind of have different takeaways from it. You considered it a good film that you really enjoyed. I enjoyed the film, but I was left wanting a bit more. I felt a little bit let down by it.
I think that's funny because I don't know how much more you want out of a 2-hour and 20-minute movie.
Yeah, I think it's because it was 2 hours and 20 minutes. The trailer really builds it up to be this like tense, fast-paced movie, and once you get past like the first 30 minutes where they have the race scene, which is honestly one of the coolest parts of the entire movie. It was so action-packed, so much was happening that I was left there just like whoa, whoa, whoa. And then like right afterwards, the rest of the movie is just like more like, all right, moving on to the next thing, moving on to the next thing, moving on to the next thing, big battle. And it never really held that same sense of tension.
Well, I feel like it's because that was such an intensive scene in itself. I mean, you have so much going on, and that's a lot to animate on top of that. I can't imagine if they had like a couple of those scenes.
Yeah, Steven Spielberg even said that this is the third most difficult movie he's made after Jaws and Saving Private Ryan. So a lot of work went into this movie, and I completely respect it. I thought it was a wonderful movie.
The job on watching that race and having like King Kong in there, and he's like beating on everything, and the whole theater is shaking. It's so loud. Like, that's really intense. And I feel like that's what you wanted.
Awesome.
The rest, but I feel like there's so much story, so much information you have to get in. The tense parts after that were kind of scattered. So I see where you say it was slow, but I feel like the information was really good.
Yeah. We'll continue talking about this. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we're going to come back to what's new on Netflix and DVD. Check it out and get back in.
Here's food for thought. Each American farmer, on average, feeds 155 people around the world.
I like the way we described it best on TV.
Farmers are producing and selling more crops, livestock, and other agricultural products directly to regional outlets and individual consumers than ever before. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, nearly 150,000 farmers sell directly to consumers, accounting for over $1 billion in food sales. In addition, farmers are more efficient, using less land with fewer resources to produce 40% of the world's corn on only 20% of the total area of corn acres harvested. The result is that American farmers and ranchers, who make up less than 2% of the population, produce enough food to feed America and ship more than $100 billion worth of products around the world. This increase in yield from agriculture is coming at an important time. Experts project that to keep up with the Earth's expanding population, farmers will have to produce more food in the next 40 years than they have in the past 10,000 years combined.
Hey moviegoers, I'm James French, and welcome to this week's Netflix and DVD picks. Let's get right into it. Lost Boys, starring Jason Patric and Kiefer Sutherland. After moving to a new town, two brothers discover that the area is a haven for vampires. Next up is Cabin Fever, starring Sam Davis and Matthew Daddario. When visiting their getaway cabin, 5 friends succumb to a flesh-eating disease. Next up is Along Came Polly, starring Ben Stiller and Jennifer Aniston. A button-up newlywed finds his too organized life falling to chaos when he finds in love with an old classmate. And coming out on DVD this week is gonna be Father Figures, starring Owen Wilson and Ed Helms. After learning that their mother has been lying to them about their deceased father for years, 2 fraternal twin brothers hit the road to find him. And next up is Thelma, starring Kyle Wilkins and Ellie Harbo. After suppressing feelings for a female friend who is in love with her, Thelma's subconscious develops psychokinetic powers that emerge devastating results. And last up is Beast of Burden, starring Daniel Radcliffe. An hour to reassure a drug cartel, a hitman, and the DEA that nothing is wrong. An hour to make sure his wife survives, and he must do it all from the cockpit of his Cessna. Oh, that's all we have for DVD Netflix of the week. I'm James French, and back to the picture show.
We're back and talking about Ready Player One. I'm here with Sarah Patterson. Sarah, let's go over the story of Ready Player One.
Right. So the movie starts out, Wade lives with his aunt, his parents are dead, he goes to escape his miserable life through the Oasis like many other people, and he is a hunter for Halliday's Easter eggs, which is the creator of the Oasis. And whenever he died, he left a video that told everyone that he has 3 keys hidden throughout the game with Easter eggs. And when you got the 3 keys, you would win his share in Gulgarious Games.
Yeah, which is represented by a giant golden Easter egg.
Right.
And then continue.
So there's groups of people, what are called Gunters?
Yeah, because they're it's short for egg hunters.
Egg hunters, right. So they're the people searching for the keys. And when the movie starts, no one has found any of the keys. And the first clue that was left was cracked by Parzival a long time ago, and it was to win this race. But no one's been able to win the race because it's so hard. And as well as this man dying and leaving a video, he also opens up a place called the Halliday Journals.
Yeah.
Where
basically a library of
his life. So you can figure out the Easter eggs that he left, which he did for you secretly in these journals in different places. And he finds out through these journals the trick to win the first the first race, and everyone's been doing it wrong all along. And I think I'll let you spoil the first race.
Yeah, because it kicks off the thing, and the whole idea is that he, instead of going forward, you go backwards.
Right.
And as soon as he goes backwards.
Because Holiday is tired of everything moving so quickly and
Yeah,
advancing. He just wants to go back in time and enjoy the little things.
Yeah. But through the race, he meets our second main lead, which is Samantha, played by Olivia Cook, and her avatar is Artemis. And we find out that she is a rebel fighter against IOI, which is this huge mega corporation that's trying to gain control of Oasis.
Who has hundreds of thousands of gunters all throughout the Oasis who are also trying to compete just to win Golgarious Games because they're the second largest company in the world. And in the movie, they say with hopes of being the first. When they find the eggs, they would own Golgarious, which is the number one company in the world. They own the Oasis.
Yeah, and this is all ran by our main baddie of the film, Sorrento, who is played by Ben Mendelsohn, who fun bad guy, not threatening, but just basically it's like whatever it takes to get the job done.
Right.
Because he's kind of a goof in some ways.
I feel like it was a weird bad guy. Like at first I was like, is he doing a good job of acting or is he doing a bad job of acting? But I think it was just a different kind of bad guy that we weren't used to because he doesn't know what to do whenever he's fighting a bunch of kids. He's like, I can do anything I want to adults, but I don't know what to do about these brats.
Yeah, and this is it's a weird balance between because you have everything that's happening in the video game, the Oasis. And it's all this action and solving puzzles and riddles and trying just to beat the game. But then you go to the real world, and it's this corporate political scheme of trying to win underhandedly if need be. And then it's our main character is trying to fight against the corporation, and it's it goes back and forth. And I wouldn't say that it does it badly. It does it very fluidly at times. But it was you consider that. Which world do you want to stay in more? And I think a lot of people kind of want to stay in that video game world a little bit more.
You can be anything you want to be in the video game world.
I'm talking about the audience.
Oh,
the audience who are watching is yeah, that's happening. Let's go back to the video game part.
Well, they did do a really cool part in the movie where they were in the real world, but they were still in the video game, and I thought that was really well executed because the audience didn't know what was going on at first, and then when you reveal it, you're like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's that whole thing. They play a lot with the aspect of video games versus reality, and it all leads up to this final battle, which, as what I said earlier, it didn't have a lot of tension from that race to this battle. The battle had a lot of tension. It was fun because you see the Iron Giant, you see Mecha Godzilla. You see a Gundam. You see these waves.
There's
of these
characters from Overwatch and
Battletoads,
Halo.
Street Fighter, Halo.
Everywhere.
All kinds this.
Everywhere you look in the crowd, there is a reference.
Yeah, someone's throwing bombs. They make from Mario. They make a weapon out of Chucky from horror. Someone throws it, and it's just he's like, oh no, it's Chucky, and it just kills 20 of them at once.
One of my favorites was the holy hand grenade.
Yeah.
Isn't that from Monty Python?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that was great because, whenever he's just buying that stuff, you're not really thinking about him using it later. You're just thinking about him spending his money. So whenever he pulls it back out later and uses it, you're like, awesome! I got to figure out what that did.
Yeah, and specifically because they pass up this robotic glove that turns you into any giant robot for a minute, and going into it, I was just like. So I was like, oh yeah, I saw the Iron Man or Iron Giant a lot in the trailer. Is that how they're going to do it? And then you see Iron Giant later. It's oh, okay. Then what was that glove for? And then you see it later used for one of the characters to turn into the Gundam. And I was just like, oh, that's so cool.
It was really cool, and I was excited about that, and I was sad that it only lasted a minute because I really would have liked to see him fight a little bit longer.
Yeah, basically a winged Gundam versus a giant robot Godzilla was really cool.
Yep.
The only thing with this whole climax is at the very end when it's resolved through the last puzzle. Very anticlimactic, and I know it was because they wanted it to be a heartfelt message.
Right.
And I could have went without that heartfelt message I wanted more of a climactic ending.
With the heartfelt message, let me ask you one question. How did you feel about the guy who played Halliday? What did you think about his performance?
I think he played an awkward introvert very well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it also stayed on screen a little too long.
Yeah, I feel like I was like, you do really good at that. You just it made some of it drag out a little bit. I wish he would have talked just a little bit faster.
Yeah. Because he played his character to a T, but it left
for cinema. It made it a little.
Well, it's like,
yeah.
All right, you still talking? All right.
But it was a little funny at the end whenever he couldn't find the egg.
Yeah, he's going through. It's like, I'm kind of like, because like in the world of the video game, you're going back to the climax of the real world where it's Sorrento coming in like with a gun to gun down Wade. There's like this sea of people, which weirdly no one stops him. There's like 40, 50 people, one guy with a gun. I was like, y'all could have.
I was going to say, y'all all live in the stacks. None of you guys have a gun. Come on, let's be real.
Or like when he's walking up and there's 12 people behind him, no one just kind of grabs him. It was kind of a forced climax with the whole, it's like, it's so beautiful, and you didn't shoot him because of it. And I was like, you've never cared for video games up to this point. Why are you stopping now just because it's beautiful? But before we go on anymore, we're going to take another quick break, and we're going to take a look at what is our Friday flick pick for this week. Stay tuned and come back and see what we have to say.
I'm Terry Hawkins, and welcome back to Friday Flick Picks. This week we choose A Quiet Place, starring Emily Blunt, John Krasinski, and Noah Jupe. Set on a farm where families being terrorized by evil, they are forced to live in silence while hiding from creatures that hunt by sound. Check out a trailer.
Total devastation.
Now that was a chilling trailer. All right, that's all for Friday Flick Picks. Back to the picture show.
We're back with some last thoughts on Ready Player One. We were talking about the final climax of the film. I was left with a little bit to be desired in a lot of it. Specifically, also Simon Pegg, who plays Ogden Morrow, Halliday's business partner, came in out of nowhere.
Yeah, and
it was like, just open up, and he was just like, you have the paper to sign. So I was like, where did you come from? I thought you were dead.
Yeah, well, that part wasn't so bad. Like, I thought that was cool. But then, like, I feel like beforehand, you're under the impression that he is dead and that you just don't get as much information on him. And it's like, well, I guess you're right. I guess, where did he come from?
Yeah, like, and then it even says, like, how'd you get here so fast? It's like, I've always been watching. Like, that doesn't explain anything.
Well,
How did you get here so fast?
He was the curator. He was probably close by all along.
It was just, it felt forced. And that has been a thing with a lot of Steven Spielberg films in recent years, that the story doesn't live up to the hype, and there's always something that feels like it has to be forced in. And that's not always a bad thing, because like I really enjoyed Super 8 that he did, and but a lot of people will say it's like there's a lot of stuff that's kind of forced into that. I was like, yeah, but I enjoyed it, and I like this really did come off as like a Steven Spielberg film of this year, or this time. It's just like, yeah, that's a Steven Spielberg film.
I mean, I was satisfied. I went and saw it twice, so there is that. But at the same time, I feel like I'm probably less picky than you are. I just love a good movie.
I can say I've become more picky by doing this show.
I also noticed myself like less with the movie, but more nitpicking particular things like, oh, you could have acted that scene way better. You did way better in like this other scene. You must have been having a bad day.
And I can definitely say that as much as I've been harping on it a little bit, I did enjoy it. I sat there, I was like, I enjoyed this. It was fun. Everything that I saw made me happy because I saw all these like little Easter eggs that I was like, I know that character, I know that character, I know that character. That's really interesting stuff. So I can't say I hated this film, but I would see it again with friends to just once again point out all the Easter eggs that we see. Probably not see it again after that. I would say that was enough for me. I can see this movie 5 years from now being someone's like, hey, remember that one film where they had all the references? Yeah, it's called Ready Player One, right? It's like, yeah, in a conversation. I don't see this going down in history. I don't see this getting like a lot of awards. That's less for like visual stuff. But it was a good film for what it was. It just lacked a little bit for me in some areas.
Well, with the rise of VR, I think we can expect more movies like this in the future. But I think that's all the time we got for today.
That is all the time we got for today. And tune in next week. We'll see what movie we'll be reviewing. And y'all have a great weekend. See you then.